What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over 19 things that were added to Madden 19. Now, if this is your first time checking out one of my videos and you want to stay updated on Madden 19 news, or you're interested in Madden 19 tips and tricks and gameplay when the game drops, consider hitting the subscribe button below and hitting the bell icon so that you never miss an upload. Normally I do tips and tricks on this channel, and I'll be doing a lot of that as soon as the game is released, so if you're interested, you might want to check that out. Now let's get right into it. 19 things that were added to Madden 19. Oftentimes I see the comment that the game is just a roster update, and I guess it's the perspective of each person, right? If there's specific things you wanted added, maybe there's 5 things you really wanted in the game and maybe you only got one of those things, well, to you the game would feel like a roster update, definitely. Whereas for another guy, if they wanted 5 things and they got 4 of those 5 things, well, for them it feels like a brand new game. So it really just depends on what you're looking for out of the game. So I've compiled a list of 19 things that were added to the game. So if these are things you're interested in, then maybe you want to buy the game. But if these are things that mostly don't really appeal to you, then maybe the game isn't for you this year. But either way, I figured let's put a list together because I think EA actually did a really good job of upgrading the game equally this year in all the game modes, presentation, gameplay. I think they added a little to everything instead of focusing on just 1 or 2 specific areas. So let's get right into it. Number 1 on the list is custom draft classes. This was not in the game, or hasn't been in the game for a while now. This isn't a brand new feature. This was something that was in the game in the past, but it definitely needed to be back. It made its return, so now you can have, you can customize the rookie draft. You can do all kind of themed drafts, and you'll be able to share these, upload them, and people can download them. So I think that's one of the best features added to the game that was not in the game last year. Number 2 is we have a new NFL draft now. This is something that's needed to be updated for a while. You have new draft stages. You have kind of just new draft presentation. When the guy gets drafted, you see him pop up on the screen. It shows you all of his stats. If he's like a superstar or something of that nature, he'll like flex and kind of show that he is like one of the best players that was picked in the draft. So overall, new NFL draft presentation. It's less stale than it has been in years past. Number 3, another really great addition, is they added a new halftime show. This has been a big complaint for a while. We now have a brand new halftime show. It goes around the map, shows you scores and updates around the league, stats and things of that nature, and then it'll cut back and show replays from your game. It will not show replays from other games yet. That's something that hopefully they get in the future, but still an updated halftime show, definitely something to help make franchise mode less stale, along with the draft and the custom draft classes. Number 4, Solo Battles is a new game mode added to Madden Ultimate Team. Basically what Solo Battles is, for those of you that are familiar with Ultimate Team, you're familiar with Weekend League. This is basically Weekend League versus the computer. You play a set of 12 games each week versus the computer. You can set, there's a bunch of different difficulties. The higher the difficulty, the higher the amount of points you have to earn. The more stats and the more points you score in the game, the more points you win by, the more points you earn. And there's a leaderboard. So depending on where you place on the leaderboard, you get rewards from what? You get coins, you get packs. If you land in the top 100, you get some crazy rewards. If you get number 1 on the list, you get ridiculous rewards, or at least you would hope so. So Solo Battles is a brand new game mode that was brought to Madden Ultimate Team. That is number 4 on the list. Number 5 on the list is another new game mode for Madden Ultimate Team, and this is Squad Battles. So if you're familiar with the MUT Squad game mode inside of Madden Ultimate Team, now you have the same thing. You can get on your team and you can go against solo challenges against the computer. So kind of like Solo Battles, but with the MUT Squad with your team. So that's another new mode, and of course there will be rewards for that too. So those are 5 things already. Number 6 on the list is Real Player Motion Technology. This is a gameplay feature. We've talked about it tons on this channel already. Real Player Motion is going to make players move more realistic than ever before, really planting their foot in the ground, using weight and momentum. The game is slowed down because of this, so you have a lot more control over your players in the open field. You can string together a lot crazier moves now, but they are a little bit harder to pull off. And with this, just makes the game more realistic in terms of running in the open field. Number 7 is another gameplay thing. We have brand new hit stick animations. In fact, the entire hit stick system has been redone. Hit sticks are harder to pull off now. The window is a lot smaller, so you won't see a million big hits a game. But when you do see big hits, you're going to see a lot new hits. I did an entire video on this. In fact, I will link that video in the description below. All the new hit stick animations. You see a lot of bigger hits this year. You see, and it's not so much just the hits themselves, but the way the players react after the hits, the way they go flying, the way they kind of ragdoll, the way they maybe twist or turn when they get hit and kind of get laid out. Very cool, and one of my favorite new things about the game. It just adds a lot of kind of flair to the game. When you lay somebody out now, it really feels like you laid them out. You can see them, you know, really take the abuse of the hit. Number 8 on the list is we have new catching animations. I also did a video on this. I'll link that in the description below if you missed that one as well. A lot of new catching animations, new one-handed catches, new aggressive catches, a lot more ways to like moss a defensive back this year. But even on defense, the defenders can go up and get crazy catches too, so it's kind of balanced. They can go up and defend some of these high point catches where in years past they couldn't do that. So a lot of new catch animations in the game for both, not just wide receivers, but also defensive backs. Number 9 on the list is signature styles. So now players are more specific to their real life counterparts. People run differently now. If you realize in old Maddens, everybody kind of ran the same kind of running motion, same stride. That's not there anymore. Bigger players, they feel slower now. Their stride is slower. It's harder to cover ground with them. Faster, shiftier guys, you feel like you can cover more ground with them. They run differently. People hold the ball differently. Some people hold it out wide a little bit more. Some people hold it up tight. Signature styles also applies to QBs. At the line of scrimmage, when they're audibling or making hot routes, you'll see them moving and doing certain type of motions that those quarterbacks do in real life. So think of a Drew Brees is always known for licking his hands, things like that. Quarterbacks now have specific animations and signature styles to their real life counterparts, so it kind of just more of an immersion thing than anything else. It makes players individuals instead of everybody kind of looking the same and robotic. Number 10 on the list is 3D hubs. This is for franchise and CFM. So this is more of just kind of a cosmetic thing, something to make it less stale, something that gives you something better to look at. You see the coach in his office walking around on the phone looking at his paperwork. You see his office. If he's won a Super Bowl, you'll see a trophy in the background of his office. Also for players, you see them at their lockers, maybe on their phone, in the locker room sitting down. Just like I said, more of a cosmetic thing. It doesn't really change franchise mode, but it's just something to look at, something. It's more of a presentation type thing that was added to the game. Number 11 also applies to franchise and CFM, and that is scheme fits. So now when you pick your scheme for your team, it's not useless like it was in years past. They did have schemes in the game before, but they didn't affect anything. Now they will affect how you are able to upgrade players. So if you pick players that fit your scheme, you can upgrade them quicker. You can get them to a higher overall, whereas if you sign a guy or you draft a guy or trade for a guy that does not fit your scheme, he's going to be harder to upgrade, and thus he's not going to get those boosts that the guys that fit your scheme will. So when you pick whatever scheme you want for your team, it'll have all the players that fit your scheme will have a puzzle piece next to them that says that they're scheme fit. So you'll be able to identify, maybe there's a guy that's a free agent that's an 84 overall, but he doesn't fit your scheme. But there's a guy that's an 82 overall that does fit your scheme. You'd be better off picking up that 82 overall because you'll be able to upgrade him a lot easier than that 84 overall. So that is just something that makes franchise mode more realistic. Obviously, in real life, you want to draft people or pick up players that fit your scheme. Now that happens in franchise mode as well. Number 12 on the list is the addition of new depth chart positions. This is another great change I like, and this affects the entire game, but I think this is still more triggered for like the franchise mode CFM crowd because it's a little more useful there, but it still affects the entire game. So the old depth chart didn't really have that many special positions. You had like third down running back, but now they've added a bunch of new ones. So you have slot cornerback now, you have slot wide receiver, you have pass rushing defensive tackle, you have pass rushing defensive end, I believe. You have a bunch of different ones that weren't in the game before. So for example, if you have a guy that you always want to be your slot cornerback, you put him in the slot cornerback spot, and anytime you come out in a nickel package or something like that, he will always be in that spot. You will never have to manually sub him in. Also, think of if you're on a third down, right, you come out in a pass defense, you might want a pass rushing defensive tackle. You might have a defensive tackle that's better at rushing the passer than he is at stuffing the run and just being a big body. So you put a specific guy in that slot. Maybe you put a defensive end in that spot. You say, hey, when I come out in pass defenses like a nickel or a dime on my third downs. I want this pass rushing defensive tackle, and so you put him there in your depth chart, and anytime you come out in those pass defenses, he will already be plugged in there. You will not have to manually, take the other guy out and sub him in. So that's really a convenience thing, but also a realistic thing, because that's obviously something that happens in real life, and now we have it in Madden. Number 13 is custom captains. This is something we didn't have in the game last year. This is again a franchise mode CFM feature. You can now pick your custom team captains. I believe you can pick up to 6, and of course whoever you pick, you will see the captain patch on their uniform. This is purely a cosmetic thing. It doesn't affect anything else. It doesn't affect player morale or give your player a boost, which I think would be cool if it did. I hope they think about adding that maybe next year or at some point, because obviously being cosmetic is cool. It's cool to be able to at least have say over who your captain is, but I definitely think it should provide more than that, at least a morale boost or something to your team. It should definitely have a little bit more of an effect, because that would just make it a cooler feature at that point. Number 14 on the list is a new player progression system. Again, this is going to be a franchise and CFM based feature. No longer can you upgrade individual attributes. Now you have to upgrade based on the archetype system. So if your guy is a slot wide receiver archetype and you say, okay, you get your full XP point, you can apply that to his slot wide receiver archetype and say, I want to upgrade his slot wide receiver archetype. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to upgrade his speed or his route running, you upgrade the archetype, and it's going to pull a bunch of random ratings and give him a +1 or a +2 that are based on his archetype. So for a slot wide receiver, if you upgrade that, it might boost his medium or short route running a +1. It might boost his catch in traffic a +1. It might boost his release and his catch a +1, and it's going to boost him up a full overall point every time you upgrade him, but it's going to upgrade a bunch of individual attributes. So you can't individually pick anymore. You just got to upgrade based on the archetype system. Some people like this, some people don't. I like it, but I understand why other people that are a little bit more specific with what they upgrade would want it to be different, but that is something that's new to the game. Number 15 is Longshot 2. Maybe some people don't consider this new because Longshot was in the game last year, but it's not Longshot, it's Longshot 2 now. It's the progression of the story. You're now playing in the NFL, which you didn't do last year. You're going to start off playing for the Cowboys, I believe. Now, whether or not you can get traded and switch teams, I don't know, but it's a brand new story mode. It's still a continuation of last year, but it's a new story. Number 16 on the list is Celebrations. This has not been in the game for a while, or at least the ability to choose your celebrations, and partially because celebrations in the NFL were really toned down for a while. Now they're back in the NFL and they're back in Madden. There's over 40 new team and signature celebrations. EA did say that they would update these throughout the year, so hopefully they do that. Hopefully that wasn't some BS, because that would be cool. So when you score a touchdown now, you have 5 different ways to celebrate. They're all based on the joystick. You can do a dance celebration, you can do a spike, you can do a signature celebration, which that's particular to each player, like Odell Beckham does his whip celebration. Some players have multiple signature celebrations, some don't have any signature celebrations. Mostly the big name guys do. You can also do a team celebration. Those are probably the coolest. We have some of the real celebrations that we saw in real life, like the Dragon Ball Z stuff. You're going to see a lot of good team celebration this year. And you can also do a swagger celebration, which means if you do that, you will steal a signature celebration from somebody on the opposing team. So those are all pretty cool. Number 17 on the list, I'm actually kind of compiling a bunch of stuff into one here. These all are new gameplay mechanics that have been added to the game, but they're all very kind of similar, so I just compiled them into one. We have the one cut feature, which is a benefit of the real player motion that we talked about earlier. It's the ability to really plant your foot and speed burst out of a cut, which we see a lot of players do in real life. So you can kind of set a guy up. You have a very small window to activate this, and you can set him up the right way, get him out of position, and kind of burst into your cut and really get a little bit of a speed burst and take off out of your cut. Really cool feature. We have the strafe burst mechanic on defense, which is the counter to the one cut. It's pretty much performed the same way. If you know somebody's going to try to one cut and burst a certain way, you're going to want to try to strafe burst that same way to counter it. So that's a new gameplay mechanic as well. Also, we have push the pile. If you get behind lineman or something, especially this is good for bigger backs. You can put your hand on their back and kind of steer, instead of like in years past you kind of would just run behind them in place and try to move them out the way. Now if you activate the push the pile mechanic, much like the one cut, it's a very small window to activate it, so you have to do it at the right time. But when you activate this, you put your hand on your opponent's back or your lineman's back, whoever's in the way, and you kind of like guide yourself and push them out the way to get extra yardage. And last but not least for this is something called hit the hole. You can do this with the joystick. You can maneuver through the hole a lot easier than years past. The game being slowed down makes this easier as well. You can actually slow down, make a cut through the hole. It's a little bit more precise than it was in years past. So that's all for number 17 right there. Just brand new gameplay mechanics. Pretty much all for the run game for the most part. Number 18 is branching special moves. So this is another feature of the real player motion. Some of the stuff we just talked about in number 17. Basically now you can string together moves. So instead of just doing a juke and then running upfield and then doing a spin and then running upfield and doing another juke, you can do a juke into a spin into a juke, like back to back to back. Again, there's a very small window to pull this off. It's not the easiest to do. It's not something that's going to be overpowered, so don't think that. But you have the ability to string special moves together in the open field now and really set guys up. So if you have some really good stick and good timing, this will be something that's very useful for you. And last but not least, I think the best for last. Number 19 is the game is finally back on PC. It has not been on PC in over a decade, since Madden 08. Madden coming to PC is huge. That means the best graphics you're going to ever see, because PC graphics are way better. I got to play it on PC and it looks really great. But also the ability for people to mod the game. Now it's probably going to take a while for people to like crack that and figure out how to mod. It might take a couple years, but eventually people are going to start modding the game, and you're going to actually get to see a Madden that's customizable, way better than EA allows the game to be on consoles. So coming to PC really is big for the future and what they can possibly do for the game. So those are 19 things that are new or different from Madden 18 to Madden 19. If those are things that you like, if most of those things hit home with you, maybe you want to check the game out this year. If you're not interested in those, then maybe just stick with 18 or 17 or whichever version of the game you're playing. But I just wanted to make a video to compile that for everybody, to make it a little bit easier for them to decide if the game is for them or not. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, as always, just drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.